everybody for coming. Thank you very much for being here. This is our last one for the year, which is super exciting and sad because I'm going to miss it for 2 months, but it'll be great when we come back in February. Thanks for coming out. We've got Sarah and Sam with us on the couch tonight. They both contributed to this awesome book here, Minds Went Walking. Before we get into it, sorry, I do have to sit like a tradesman as well. My belly is really big, so I'm sorry if it's not very gracious, but this is the best I can do. So I'd just like to do an acknowledgement of country before we dive into it. We are so lucky to live here on this Goreng Menang Buja. It's a diversity hotspot, and that's thanks to the caretaking custodianship of the people before us. Did an amazing job, have so much knowledge, and we're all very, very lucky to live here and to be here and come together tonight on this place. So thank you very much. Elders past, present and emerging, we acknowledge them. Okay. Got your mics, guys?
Try this microphone. Oh my goodness,
yeah.
It works.
You sound amazing. How about you, Sam?
Hello.
You're a singer. Can you sing something for us?
My name is Sam.
No?
Maybe after.
After the bevy? Yeah. Okay. So, actually, but that's, so you're a singer-songwriter.
Mm.
You also are a producer for the radio station, is that right?
For Radio National, ABC Radio National.
Yeah. And did you do journalism?
No, I didn't. I was a writer, then tried a hand at academia, and I don't know, I found myself in a lot of universities seem to be going down a road where, not the one just down the road, hopefully. I think that's a good one. There it sounds. But I was in one which was the typical. Everyone, there were people in these offices, but they were more like sort of corpses that were animated from time to time, and it looked like not a good existence, so I bailed. And
you were afraid to become a corpse behind a desk.
I was. And a few of my friends were working in the ABC, which for its own reasons does sometimes feel like you're a polar bear on a melting ice cap for different reasons. But I'm enjoying myself. It's been good, and it gave me the opportunity to come back home to WA.
Yeah.
And even though I'm working for the Sunday Extra program, which is based out of Sydney, thanks to, it feels very sort of grim to say thanks to COVID. No thanks to COVID, but one good thing about COVID is I can do that job from here.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because you were in Freo for a while as well, weren't you?
My partner and I, we were in Perth for a little bit. We're actually staying in Cottesloe, and actually that's where this
was written.
This book was written, and it's also set in it's the crappy Cottesloe apartments that are kind of, you're wedged in amongst mansions, and we were the poorest people in Cottesloe.
Yeah.
And that's where we were, and that's where I wrote this book, and that's where this character.
That character unfolded. Yeah. Okay. So what about you, Sarah? So I remember studying with you years ago, actually, down here at WA.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. There's
sort of
a whole university community right in front of us and beside us. And
I think we both had Jan for anthropology.
I think we did. Yeah. And Barbara as well.
Yes.
And there's a few students as well in the room. So that was my academic experience, which is quite lovely at the UWA campus.
It's like Albany's Hogwarts, right?
Yeah. We've even got a dungeon.
Yeah, it's a great dungeon. Yeah. So, and you now work there. So you studied there, and now you work there as a tutor.
Yeah, I work there as a tutor in English and history and Indigenous studies as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And in between all of that, you've written actually quite a few books. You've got Salt Story, you've got The Sound, you've contributed to Women of a Certain Race.
Yeah, I think it's like whenever Fremantle Press are coming up with an anthology, they'll say to me, "Hey, Sarah, would you like to get involved?"
Yeah.
So I think the first one was Purple Prose.
Oh, yeah.
And then it was Women of a Certain Age. And then Women of a Certain Rage, and then Minds Went Walking.
Yeah.
So it's really lovely just being part of that Fremantle Press community as well. Yeah.
So your book, because you're published as well, so The Windy Season.
Amazing book. Has anyone read
Do you know,
Windy Season?
We actually all need to start a petition because we tried to get some stock that needs to be reprinted. So everyone has to.
Yep.
It's Alan and Unwin.
Alan and Unwin.
Everyone has to Google, Facebook the crap out of Alan and Unwin
Yeah.
and get another print run because it's a great book and we should see it again. Yeah, definitely. Well, I don't know if my boss will want us to get that anarchist, but we should. We need to get something happening because it was an awesome book and couldn't get any for tonight.
Yeah, I think that's the cost. I mean, the publisher Annette Barlow. I mean, she's lovely and she's been for many years. She was pestering
Hashtag Annette Barlow in your things.
She was pestering me about the next book, and then I think she realised I was that writer that's going to take a very long time for the next book to come.
Okay.
And I think that has been what has consigned that with the Windy season 2. Yeah, one of those sort of very difficult things to get out of the warehouse. And so I really think petitions are really lovely. I think I need to petition myself to finish this current novel finally, and that probably is the best chance of defibrillating the life of
It's
the
a good
first.
chance they'll press reprint, wouldn't they?
Yeah, nice. And then you can come and be on the couch with us again. So that works well for everyone. So, okay. So you've been working on a book for quite a while. But, I mean, in that time you also became a father and lots has been happening. So Charlie's, 18 months now?
Yeah.
So
our little boy's 18 months. And was talking about just before we came on, I mean, that is its own interesting challenge. Like, in that time, I've done a few different things. I mean, smaller pieces like the one in this collection and sort of bits of journalism, so try my hand in journalism as well. But, all the time there's been a novel that's been in different stages of percolation. And, I mean, sometimes these things do take a while. But, the baby thing is this own complication. And I feel though
blessed complication.
But I feel ridiculous even talking about it as a bloke because this has been a thing that women writers have been confronted with, forever. And I think of my heroes like I was mentioning Alice Munro before. The time where she found the time to write her books, and she wrote The Lives of Girls and Women when she had 2 very small kids, I think under 4, and she was getting up. She would write when they put them down for their nap, which I think is amazing as well because a nap is such a bloody mysterious thing, about even if it's going to happen. But she somehow managed to do it every day and write in the nap, and then at night when they went to bed, and somehow was not completely spent. And this was in a time when she was obviously, was the housewife as well. She had this, all this ridiculous, all the responsibilities of that. And I just think, how on earth? And then my Angela used to get up just to try and beat her child awake in the morning, which, not beat her child. She just, she used to try and...
contradicts a lot of her writing. But
I don't think my Angela would have ever done that. She would be up before her children, which is in itself a kind of an amazing thing to do because I sometimes think, okay, I'm gonna get up before Charlie does tomorrow, and then he's always like, checkmate, it's 3:45, and I'm like, all there was, anyway. So it's challenge, but it's also, I don't know, it changes the work and everything feels, and we'll talk about this in a bit, but everything like love, death, kind of, I think not just children, but just the time. It's so interesting how, I'll talk about this, I'm sure, but this song I was writing, the story on was this, when I was a 9-year-old listening to it, it was just this really joyous love song. And then it was only as I got older and was writing this sort of in my mid-30s that I detected the loss and sadness in it, and that's the kind of the beauty of, I guess, time and change as well. It kind of, it thankfully makes you a little bit wiser as well. So
So what's the process for being a part of an anthology like this? So you both just get an email saying, hey, or do they put a call out, or how do you end up being involved in something like this?
Can I go first? Because I think we might have actually quite different I did a session in Margaret River on this same book, and we all discovered that we all had Georgia Richter had approached us in different ways, or sort of, so for me, Georgia just rang me up one day and went, what do you reckon about a Paul Kelly song, And I'm like, well, yeah, sort of private disclosure, not so private disclosure, but, you know, Paul Kelly is like, I'm not, you know, he's not my favourite. I'm not saying that I don't like him or anything, but he hasn't sort of really impacted on my life at all. And so I was like, yeah, I'll give it a crack, you know. And then we had to pitch, do a pitch to the editors. And then they sort of came back and went, yeah, run with it, go with that, yeah. Oh, and we also got a song list. Did you get a song list? Okay, so I got a list of songs that were already taken. So I was like, well, I can't have that. Damn.
So did authors get to select a song, or did they kind of pick it out of a hat, or?
I think a lot of, the authors actually got to pick the song that they wanted to use for the story. But they didn't obviously want a lot of doubling up.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, they let me know which songs were already gone. Yeah.
What made you choose your song? Remind me, Baby Brain. What was your song?
Desdemona.
Desdemona, that's it. What made you choose Desdemona?
We can go into that a little bit later if you like, or we can go into it right now. Shall we just go?
It's very fluid,
okay.
this conversation.
Okay. So Desdemona is something that I've always heard Paul Kelly sing, and I'm going to sing it really badly for now, but if you can remember the song, it's like, well, I lost my Desdemona, with my own hands I did destroy her, and you're like, what? You know?
Yeah.
Like, he's killed his wife, and we're being asked to feel sorry for him, and that's always bugged me so much. And so then I started looking into, obviously, the origins of Desdemona, which is Othello, Shakespeare's Othello. And kind of the same thing happens, you know. It's sort of like, poor old Othello, you know, I don't know. Like, I just felt really uneasy with this kind of narrative. And I went, I might speak to that. So that was my sort of first point of kind of going, and then it was so much fun writing this story. Did you find it like just a blast? Like, kind of just finding a story. It's already there for you, you know what I mean? Like, you just have to find a place to put it and people to put in it, and
But it's so interesting the way that the whole book came together, and the way some people were just doing kind of reflective, almost memoir-ish essays on their experience of the song.
A lot of nostalgia.
Some people were really retelling and trying to translate and flipping the script kind of on a few different things. And then some people just had these amazing speculative ideas, and I was like, whoa, I never would have thought.
Coleman?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That is such an amazing story, isn't it?
So a lot of different approaches to how they unpacked and worked with that. How did you work with it, Sam?
So
Wake was your song, wasn't it? Wake.
Oh no, Wake's the story. The song was really it's a strange one. I mean, I knew when I always knew what it would be when Georgia asked.
What was your song?
It's called a Song from the 16th Floor.
Yeah, I couldn't work out what song it was.
Yeah,
when I was
and it's
reading,
a choice that 9-year-old. I mean, it came out in '94 when I was 9, and I loved the song, and I used to kind of dance around to it. But I had, to sort of my brother's kind of horror, I had the most hideous, the most confusing taste, I think, as a kid. And he was this. Remember, we were in Geraldton, and he was kind of, a few years older than me at the end of primary school and into Nirvana and things. And then I was into, like, my favourite song ever was Nessun Dorma, sung by Pavarotti, and I'd listen to that, at full blare in the house.
Yeah.
Or Kiss from a Rose by Seal. Yeah. Was another one I'd play. Always these big grand songs about
big ballads.
Big ballads, these huge sort of songs about love, which I of course didn't understand anything about. But I loved these. I was in love with these songs, and all that was so mysterious, love and this song is this on paper and in song is this dorky, jaunty song about someone on the 16th floor of an apartment saying, I will jump from the 16th floor if I only could be next to you. I'll put my head in a lion's jaw if I only could be next to you. I'd take a ride on Niagara Falls if I only could be next to you. Which to a kid reads almost like this children's story. And in a sense, you kind of think, oh, maybe that's what, like, love, that's what you have to do to find love. You've got to do this kind of, you've got to be a stunt man and do crazy shit, you know. And that's what I was captivated by as a kid. I just loved that. You know, I would walk on burning coals. But then I think over time, sort of subliminally, I kind of knew that song had more going on. And, you know, another lyric is, you know, every day I speak your name. If I had wings, I'd fly, but you're not here to hold me. You know? And then I think that made me think about, well, is this person they're singing about even around anymore? And yeah, so that kind of keyed up with a few things. Like this character that I wrote about had existed for a while before. You know, she was a character in my first novel.
So Fred and Rob, wasn't it, from your story?
Fred the swimmer.
Yeah, Fred the swimmer.
Fred the swimmer and Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, she'd existed in my first book. She was the copper in the story, The Winter Season, and she'd lost her husband a few years earlier to when we see her in the book to cancer. Yeah. And so I'd always been interested in her story and what that was about. Yeah. And it ended up being this weird thing. I mean, yeah, it's funny because you're hinting about. I'm interested to hear more about Sarah because it sounds like you were having a kind of this joyful flow experience with writing, which happens from time to time. It's such a, you know, and envious to hear about. Yeah. And it
yeah, tell us how easy it was, Sarah.
And this was the other version. This was a story that I tried to. It was originally a novel, and it didn't kind of go anywhere. But then I knew working with Georgia. I mean, Georgia was my sort of big mentor at uni. Speaking about uni people, so Georgia Bick is the publisher at Fremantle Press. And I just always found her just so kind of clarifying. And you would take to her writing that is sort of a mess when you don't understand it psychologically. Yeah. And she wouldn't tell you how to fix it, but she was this sort of effortless kind of sounding board where you would be getting these sort of echoes back, and you would suddenly start to hear it and see it proper. Oh, that's clever.
She's a genius.
She is a genius. Yeah. So I had this story about Fred or Frida. This story about loss. Woman living in the 16th floor of an apartment in Cottesloe. And trying to understand, a bit more about that yearning and longing. I guess the other thing as well, when I talk about Georgia and what she helped me see with the book, I never understood it because when I was writing the novel version, and she still is this character in the short story, but with her husband has testicular cancer, which my dad actually was diagnosed with when I was a kid, but he sort of very fortunately got through all that. But like in our family, that was sort of something we didn't really talk about very much. And she, in the relationship, it's a situation she's kind of horrified by in a way. And
she really wrestles, doesn't she?
Really wrestles and can't almost look at it, you know. Yeah. And she is angry at the situation. She finds a lot of it kind of grotesque and horrifying, and then angry at herself for feeling that way. And that's where I got to with this book in terms of her story, and I just struggled to think, well, what is the kind of the point of that? Yeah. But as I've gotten older, that, you know, we work in very mysterious ways. You know, the way we respond to grief, to big things. I'm someone who, because of that kind of weird Irish Catholic upbringing, like if someone has a big emotion right in front of me, if anyone in here suddenly starts bursting out crying in a huge way, I kind of won't know what to do. I sort of find myself feeling like I might laugh, or I might want to walk out the room, and I've always known that about myself, and always it's been a thing I've loathed and kind of thought, you know, what does that mean? Does that mean am I a psychopath or something like that? And I had a really wonderful, very smart psychologist years ago. I remember confessing this thing that happens when someone has, you know, is overwhelmed with emotion around me and this discomfort I have. And I'm basically trying to ask her, do you think I'm a psychopath kind of thing? And she was like, well, how was emotion dealt with, you know, in your home? Was it okay? And it just wasn't, you know. And that was, so you still feel the feelings. And anyway, so this is still a love story. Yeah. And that's, I think, Georgia helped me see, that despite the kind of her struggle with it, and she feels like she hasn't met the test. I think she realises at the end that the longing and the love, it's all grief really that she's been struggling with the whole time.
It definitely came through, Sam. Like it really came through. You really felt, even though she was so wrestling with things, and he, especially when you see that he's kind of the calmness that he has, and she supported him in that setting to have that calm, and he didn't have fear when he went, even though she wrestled the whole time, but she still was able to provide that environment for him. So yeah, it was really clear. It was beautiful.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story.
Mm. So yeah, back to you. So your amazing effortless writing for this one.
That'll come back to bite me.
So how was it like? Yeah, what was it like?
It wasn't amazing. It was not amazing and effortless. I just have to say that.
It does happen from time to time.
It's happened to me once. Yeah, I think it was 3 o'clock in the morning, an almost perfect short story. That was the highlight. But that was so long ago that. But it was fun. It was great fun. It was great fun having a brief actually, and having a parameter to begin with, and. Not just feel like I'm kind of floundering and finding my way into a story.
Yeah,
I kind of already had a structure.
Yeah.
And then it was just, the rest of it was just making stuff up.
Yeah.
And so I just loved that
Enjoying
whole
it, yeah.
process. Yeah.
I'm really interested to ask you both, because you've both written full-length novels and various writings, but what's it like writing a short story? How does that then compare? Because you must have to structurally approach it quite differently, or is there different mental drafting? Or I don't know. Or do you just do it and go, that's enough words, or, you know? Because I think when you look at a short story, a good short story is it's punchy and pithy. It gets you there quickly. It can be just this snapshot of something, but you come away feeling like it's well rounded, and you knew what you engaged with, and you build the context yourself from what they've offered you. You know, like that can't be easy to do.
That's what it looks like by the time you get to the end. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's still a messy process, obviously.
Yeah.
I honestly just don't know how to approach that question.
Yeah, okay.
They're just such different beasts.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's exactly what we want to hear. Like how different are these beasts?
Yes, they are very different
Yeah.
beasts. One's a behemoth that
Yeah.
sort of takes over your life for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Whereas I guess with short stories, you'll have themes that take over your life for quite a long time, but they can be condensed. Sorry if I'm being a bit vague here,
It was a very broad question.
To you, Sam.
No, I think that's true. I mean, one thing I think what writing a short story has taught me about writing a novel, which is really instructive, is because novels, and the reason they can take so long and the reason you can be paralysed in them is it can feel like this just ridiculous kind of I guess a case of project management, and I'm incredibly disorganised. And
That's
suddenly,
actually a really good point.
Yeah,
project
dealing with
management.
you're swimming in hundreds of thousands of words, and then you're thinking, I need to organise this whole thing. I need to make it all work architecturally and in a sort of an engineering sense, so it feels like a building is not going to collapse on people's heads, sort of things. You feel this pressure to kind of make it all make sense and all be easily, navigatable and. But writing a short story, that pressure is not so much there, because it can be, I suppose, it can be this very incredibly well engineered thing that goes off like a bomb, this perfectly structured thing, and I think that's a beautiful. That craft. I mean, I think of someone like there's so many examples of short story writers like that. I've been more drawn, when I was working on this, I got into writers that were not doing that so much. We're not doing the intricately structured thing. People like Alice Munro, the Irish writer William Trevor, which were much more in the business of kind of walloping you with some emotional kind of energy. And having a kind of a vagueness would be one way of thinking of it. But I think also a mysteriousness about, I guess, the subject and about life that is actually more truthful. You kind of get to an end of a story and you have a feeling that I feel like I understand something more, but I couldn't tell you what, you know?
Yeah.
And that feels somehow more emotionally true and
less prescriptive.
Less prescriptive. And I sort of sometimes think, well, maybe that's what you actually need to come back to the novel and think of it less like you're an architect, because you're not. I mean, architects are, I guess, artists of a kind.
Yeah.
But an artist, I think, and then this is completely stealing from Charlotte Wood, I was hearing recently talk about this, who, interestingly, she was finishing her most recent book, her 10th book, while she was...
The Stoneyard Devotional.
Stoneyard Devotional, while she was recovering from cancer treatment.
Yeah.
And she said coming back from that experience changed everything. She realised how much of our life is kind of caught up in a cult of customer service, is what she called it. We want everyone to like what we do. We also want everyone to understand to a fault.
Yeah.
And she came back from, I guess, that the cold tap of on the shoulder that she called cancer.
Yeah.
She came back from that just totally uninterested with the customer service thing, you know. If someone didn't understand what she was trying to do on some really logical level, that wasn't her, it wasn't their problem, and it also wasn't hers. And what was another line she talked about? The absolute jurisdiction of the artist. So you as an artist writing something or making something, that's the area that you have to control. How people respond to it is really none of your business, you know. And so I think that was instructive. With this, Georgia kind of allowed me to kind of approach something that I was struggling to try and really make work and really make sense. She was just trying to help me make it true, you know, which is a whole other thing that I don't quite understand. But when I finished the story, I realised this is all kind of, this is it. This is what it is.
So what do you mean by that? Do you mean like believable or authentic, or what do you mean when she's trying to make it true?
I think it is authentic. You know, it's and it that is I'm so desperate to kind of throw this back at you, Sarah, because I think it's such a weird. Yeah. It's I don't know if they'll one day be able to, I don't know, build a machine that kind of can scan something but you know it when you read it. Yeah. You know, and you know when you hear it. You know when you hear. I mean, we walk around so much talking in a sort of a kind of a code, or we have our way that we say things, or way we talk about, say, death and loss. But you know when you're hearing from someone the real truth. Yeah. And it might be the stuff that we don't normally say, like, you know, someone's treatment. I found a lot of it kind of terrifying and ugly and grotesque and horrific. That is a human thing that happens. We don't say that because it's not sometimes acceptable, but it's true. And love is tied up in all that, because it's tied up, you know, a lot of those responses, I guess, are fearful responses. I don't think I'm making a lot of sense. What do you think?
No, but I like the words that are coming out of your mouth. It's good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also the unpretty as well. Obviously, the sort of the lack of customer service that you were talking about. When you see that, I guess, you know, that bruise or that rawness that we all have in our sort of interior thoughts, and when you see that on the page and you go, ooh, like, you know what I mean? Like that, that's the sign of that truth coming through, that you go, oh yeah, I think I thought that. And, you know, it might be cringy or it might be beautiful, you know, but also what you were talking about, the tap on the shoulder and, you know, the child being born, those sort of things, you can see that in your story, Wake, you know, it's that real sort of getting back to that truth.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? We've got a roving mic with lovely Lisa. No? Everyone's happy? Oh, yeah, done that. Sorry, we no, we do, no, excuse me. No, darling, we do need it. No, love, that doesn't project. It picks up for the recording. Yeah.
Who was going to be speaking today, but I went through all of these stories and I highlighted because I didn't really, I just got clean, and I just thought there must be a mirror ball here somewhere, but there wasn't. I was so drawn to, I suppose, that authenticness that came out of all of this, and I thought, oh wow, I missed. So one of the lines with Julia Lawrenson. She said, music gives us expression for the things we couldn't yet find our own. Yeah. You know, you sing along to music. I was just saying earlier on, you sing along to songs, that are about war, but it's got a good. So you're singing along thinking, oh, wow, that was a great song. And it's not until you've experienced loss or experienced troubled times and someone plays that song and you go, oh, was that? Yeah. Okay. But Sam, I underlined something from your story, which was absolutely fantastic. When they went to go do some and they kind of got turned away. But the line that attracted me was they had an unwillingness to touch anything spiritual, broached philosophical doors with their shoulders and elbows. Yeah. And I thought, post-COVID, that made complete sense. Yeah. So that was a really moving.
Thank you. That was a particularly that's a Catholic thing. They both had Catholic upbringings, and yeah.
Which is what you were talking about before, wasn't it? About that sort of. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Sorry. Having a moment. Can you talk to me about, actually, can you talk to me about, where is it? Because The Seed by Claire G. Coleman.
Oh my
Can
goodness.
you talk to me about that? Because,
Okay, all right.
Because maybe
I can do
missed
this.
something.
I actually, okay. So I've got to find it now. But
Here you go, if you need.
thank you, The Seed. So it's called The Seed.
Yeah.
Claire G. Coleman. She's a Noongar woman. She's written Terra Nullius and The Old Lie, and a third one.
Oh, Lies, Damned Lies.
Lies, Damned Lies. I think she's living in Victoria now. You've got.
Oh, look, I'm sorry about that.
Sorry, on top of it, it's got weird.
Yeah. I did. And
You're so
highlighted
jumped
it.
in. Okay, all right.
But I tagged it hoping that we could talk about it tonight because
Okay.
I loved it, but I wasn't quite
I can talk about why I
good.
think this is so
Good,
amazing.
because I got to the end of it and I was like, whoa.
Right. Okay.
what
So
have I
this
just
is
read?
probably based on From Little Things, Big Things Grow, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And the Vincent Lingiari character
Yes. Yeah.
holding out his hand and having Gough
yeah,
Whitman,
and
And so it's sort of kind of, I don't know if you agree with me about this, but we can chat about that. But it's basically sort of a kind of a Vincent Lingiari character who's kind of entering a kind of dreaming, right?
Okay.
And you're sort of, I got about 2/3 of my way into this story, and I was just like, what is going on here?
Thank you.
What is going on?
Yeah.
I've got no idea. And then I get the final third. It was just like mind blowing.
Oh, good. So
okay.
Blow my mind, please, Sarah, because I didn't get there.
It's been a while since I've read it.
Yeah.
But I talked about it at Margaret River as well because I was just.
I got the reference to Vincent. I got all of that, and I was there. But I was like, is this a robotic thing? Or
yes.
And then it became part of the tree, and then there was rust, and I was like, whoa.
So Claire G. Coleman writes a lot of speculative fiction,
Yes,
right?
okay.
And also a lot of sort of biomechanical stuff,
Yes.
as well as post-colonial, pre-colonial kind of. So there's all of these themes that are coming out in here, including the old bloke with with chips in the back of their heads that are starting to, be controlled again, and all of this kind of thing. So it's very abstract, but it's got these amazing themes of colonisation, of our history, of our shared history, and I just love it. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
So there you go. That's my treatment.
Thank you for that, because
I thought about it. Did you?
Well, I think, I mean, I think Claire is someone who's definitely taking up a baton of someone like Alexis Wright, whose work is sort of similarly, incredibly challenging and, can leave your head spinning. But in a way, I think that's kind of, I don't know, there's something, again, I admire about, I think I'm in this thing at the moment a bit about appreciating writers who a little bit just, they're tackling a kind of an artistic work.
Yes.
And I think, and that's something a bit about, there's a pressure from, I guess it's just from everything at the moment. Everything we do is a product. I mean, even our image is a kind of we put filters on it before we put it on Instagram. Like everything is sort of slightly sculpted to kind of make it a bit more acceptable and understandable to another person, rather than, again, just the truth.
Yeah.
As difficult and maybe even sort of hard to understand as that might be. And I think more and more I'm growing an affection for people who are doing that, and doing that with a kind of a courage to think, you might not get me, and that's cool, or and that's not my job as a writer or an artist. And I kind of what I like about that is not so much the kind of the FU about that, but it's more the license that gives to everyone else who is doing the same thing. I mean, anyone in this room that's writing, to have this courage about thinking, I hope, not sitting down at the desk thinking, God, I really hope someone likes this, or I really hope someone gets this line. I really hope that they don't stumble on it. More, what do I want to say? What do I need to say? And is this true? And is this true, again, in that difficult definition of that word? Is it true? Am I being truthful?
Yeah.
And that is your only responsibility as an artist, and not worrying so much about how much someone likes it.
Is that a product of our time, or do you think that that's just something that's plagued creatives for?
I mean, I think more and more we are, because all of us want to. I mean, I think it is a bit of a product of our time, where everything has got to a point where you want to make it. It's a kind of consumer product, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing to really rail against.
Yeah.
Because writing has always been so much more than that. When people were first writing novels, and it was, the kind of the beginning of the printing press, it was kind of a radical thing that you were trying to do, and it's a radical dissemination of difficult ideas that weren't really acceptable, and people didn't want you talking about in the public. And so I do like that there are people moving around with that kind of, and someone like Claire is a kind of, maverick in that way, and people like Alexis Wright and Indigenous writers are often like that. I think they have this steel to them. They just kind of they obviously don't give a damn for lots of reasons. And I think I'm probably too polite and too I don't know. I struggle with the kind of the Catholic upbringing, being good and wanting people to kind of like what I'm doing, but more and more I'm trying to grow some steel of just being like, okay, what is it, Sam, you really are trying to say right now, and be brave enough to say it,
I think also from the reader's perspective, like I put a lot of pressure on myself to get it, and to more than get it, to be able to really unpack it, and that kind of thing. And really last night because Claire's was the last one that I read. I'd kind of cherry-picked and gone through and been able to finish hers last night. And I should have just let myself go with it, but I got frustrated that I didn't have that. I felt like I didn't totally follow the seed. And, truth be told, I was sitting in bed, it was late at night, my son's story in my stomach was doing a crocodile death roll, rolling around. I was not going to get the intricacies of this story at that time, but that really frustrated me. So I suppose as readers as well, we've got to allow ourselves to not always have to be interpreting everything, but just sit in what they're offering us,
I think sometimes people can be especially afraid of poetry for that
yeah,
reason of needing to get it, needing to understand it. And I also like to riff off what you were saying as well, Sam, is that, I mean, we've had these modernists, haven't we? We've had Virginia Woolf and these people who, they do make us work a bit, and they, you don't necessarily have to actually understand a narrative, in her short stories to work out what the truth is and how it makes us feel.
And I think as well, the interesting thing, it's funny too, I think sometimes, because when you walk into an art gallery, you don't feel that pressure.
That's so true.
That kind of comprehension test.
Yeah.
It's either, and you're still welcome to go, I don't like that, but you don't have to even really articulate why you don't like it.
Exactly.
And I think it's okay as well. I think it's okay to not like. So I think
that's so true. But
doesn't move me, or I don't feel anything or whatever. But it's. I think also there's an interesting time we're moving into. I mean, sometimes this arrival of AI and the fact that ChatGPT can write books gets frightening.
Yeah.
But then I think what the computer is really good at doing is writing very comprehensible sort of just formulaic stuff. You know, it can do the stuff. It can make the consumer product, and it's probably going to get really good at doing that. What I think it won't be good at doing, obviously, because it's not human, is writing the human,
The
truthful,
nuances.
ugly stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's where we will always, I guess, have the advantage. You know,
Yeah.
because we're imperfect and human and ugly, and we're feeling. Yeah.
Save the writers.
Yeah. So, did you have a favourite, actually? Because, so Sarah really resonated with Claire's piece, The Seed. Did you have one that particularly jumped out to you, apart from your own?
I don't know. I mean, I think I love. I mean, yeah. I just sound like the biggest sort of suck up on earth. And Sarah, I I don't know. I think we're both people of a similar species. I think, with a particular affinity and to kind of like the ocean as a sort of a space of human stories, but
Yeah.
also this place that's sort of endlessly mysterious. I mean, we're not the first in that queue. I mean, that seems to be lots of humans lining up forever, completely spellbound by this part of the world. But I'd just identify in Sarah. Oh, yeah, we're in the similar. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a zoologist, but I kind of imagine on some tree that
Yeah.
there'd be a particular thing,
Yeah.
and we're the people that find, you know, seaweed and driftwood, and the gnarly people, you know, that gather around small towns like Windy Harbour and
Yeah.
the like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you mind doing a bit of a reading for us? Yeah. Each of you, who would like to go first?
I did my homework, surprisingly.
Well done,
I didn't respond to your
Sam.
email for months, but I
But
did.
you came prepared. I love it. That's good.
Yeah, the most disorganized man on earth, but here we are. So, yeah, this is quite late on in the book, in the story.
Yep.
And anyway, I think it sort of explains itself. Oh, so Rob, her husband, he was a lawyer before he got sick. In public prosecutions, Rob had seen enough of the senselessness of the world, the violence done to the innocent. It was a common complaint of the atheist. How could a loving God? If miracles should happen, there had been times you might better have expected them. Then it had been another angle, a podcast from a Franciscan priest in California. Rob fell deep into it. God as the universe, cosmic Christ. He read up on ecofeminism, became a vegetarian. And then they had moved from their house in North Perth to the coast in Cottesloe, a tired apartment block flanked by mansions south of the coffee strip. Fred thought oceanfront living was fool's gold, endless sun in your eyes, screaming wind. But she didn't say it. Rob wanted elevation, his hospital bed looking out over water. And in those last weeks, Rob had been content. There was pain, but she could see in his face that there wasn't fear. Then why should she struggle to see him, to look at him? She felt such anger in any of his talk, his daily inventory of what he had seen from his perch on the balcony, humpbacks, their breasts like cannon smoke, a kingfisher that had visited on the railing. It was also bloody earnest. And she tried to hide that from him, but she didn't see the comfort in it. Being stardust didn't make her feel one with anything, it just made her morose. How could anyone find any comfort in particles, in the detritus of an exploding sun? It seemed pretentious to her, or even dishonest. It was good then that he had insisted she keep working. He knew her preference for being busy, working hard. Fred would go mad sitting around the house, ruminating on existence, and he didn't want her to change anything. At night, she would sneak around the kitchen for water so as not to wake him in his hospital bed, to have to talk. And Rob had taken an interest in the change in her. Even in the mist of drugs, he was concerned for her, confused by it, and she couldn't bear to see that either. That was a failure, that he should have to look out for her with the weeks he had left. She had not risen to the moment, but she couldn't pull herself out of it, couldn't even bring herself to smile, and that angered her too. What she had amounted to when it counted. It made it hard to look at her own reflection. Every time she went through that living room now, she saw the space where the hospital bed was and the shadow that used to lie on it. And she wished she could lie down with that shadow, with him, that she could have that time back.
So beautiful story.
So yeah, thank you, Sam. That was beautiful.
Yeah, it's just amazing. I love that idea of her being tethered to her physical body and to life as well. And it's just lovely. I'm kind of got two, well, maybe one or two bits. Basically, it's so in this story, it is surprise, surprise, set in a late 1960s, early 1970s whaling town in the Great Southern. I've got two scenes. There's one of the actual chase, but there's three main characters in this story. There's Otto, who's the Othello character. There's Sol, who's the Iago character, who's always in Otto's ear. And, of course, there's Desi or Desdemona. I think I'll go with the chase one, which if anyone ever read Ches Stubbs's memoirs will know where this research came from, as well as seeing lots of old films and stuff. So Sol saw the undersea as rolling paper, with the flickering needle printing black dots and shapes and mysterious languages. In his headphones he heard the whales clacking intensify as they understood their danger. The spotter pilot bugled over the radio, all numbers and Bravo whiskies, and the ship changed course accordingly. Sol sat at the sonar, tracking the travel of the whales. He watched the dots converge and knew which shape was a calf and which was a bull. Green 20, range 700, tilt 40, he called into the transmitter, relaying the whale's position to the skipper. The ship's gears changed at Sol's command. The gunner stirred on the bridge at Sol's command. It was Sol's reading of these hieroglyphs that dictated what happened next, and he knew it. He also knew it was down to him if they lost a whale. He left it to the gunner to work out the bull from the cows. The humpy bulls always hung around if a cow was killed, maybe even charged the ship. If it was a bull shot, the cows just took off, as they all do. In the chill grip of winter, when Sol saw Desi standing on the jetty waiting for her Otto, her hair wild with the dirty easterly and her face a pale smudge above the yellow raincoat, he felt an envy against his brother spike his stomach. Okay, one more short.
Go for it.
Yeah. So I spent my childhood working in the fish factory. So here's a scene that kind of was pulled together from that. It's a bit like you sort of talking about your father and how we cobble together these stories, you know, from these memories, and also just pull them out of the air as well. It's it's a peculiar kind of magic. Affairs, Desi said on the conveyor belt. Do the night crew really have affairs? Oh, the peas are in season. Oh, the beans are in season. And after that, oh, the salmon are in season. Spud season. You know what, Desi? I'm in fucking season right now. Of course we have affairs. Narelle's gloved hands are quick on the black rubber as she talked. They're either out shooting whales or cutting them up, and we're at the pub skiding about it, or else they're sleeping. Christ! Narelle, Jodie and Desi all lurched backward as a severed hand came along towards them on the carpet of green beans. Narelle stepped forward like a crow on the road. She picked up the hand as it travelled by. Jodie's hand covered her mouth. Desi heard the engine driving the conveyor belt, whoomp, 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 and Jodie screaming, stop, 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 and the engineer and supervisor laughing at their prank.
I wonder, how does it feel, because you both would have written these pieces a little while ago, and then it takes a bit of a process to get the book together, and then it comes out. How does it feel to read your work? Do these words still feel a part of you, or is it like? So I remember speaking to Craig Sylvie, and he was saying that once he's written something, he kind of lets it go. And I don't know, like reading your work, does it resonate in the same way, or how does it feel?
I think there's definitely a thing where you see things that you wouldn't do the same anymore.
Oh, you
And that's-
critique yourself.
Or you even edit yourself while you're reading, and that's a very
okay.
common. You hear lots of people talk. Yeah, I did that too.
Oh,
I sort of-
really?
I left out a couple of bum lines.
I
And that's
I
yeah.
hadn't considered that. Yeah, okay.
Which is, I think, again, a great lesson for like once you finished a first draft, something like letting it sit a long time, because you come back and you see it differently. I think also,
But also reading it out loud.
You're reading it out loud, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a wholly different thing, isn't it? And it's like the thing the thing that was really what it was made to do. You know, I think. So I think that's cool. But also, again, there's something interesting about that time, how you sort of writing something so unconscious, and you're kind of doing that. And I think when you're doing that thing, which a lot of writers talk about, which is this trusting the kind of, I remember the Alaskan writer David Vann talking about trusting the design of the subconscious. You know, you just go and you just trust that you know what you need to know already. And I think it seems to be the truth with so many things. And it's kind of, getting out of your own way. And so I think when I sometimes I finish something like that, you kind of think you know what you've just done, but you're not quite sure.
Yeah.
It's a bit of the fever dream kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then with months or a year or so down the line, you can see what it was you were trying to say. And I think that's really the lovely thing about it, you know. So I think even more thematically, I don't know, in this whole conversation probably said a lot of different things, I imagine. I feel like now I might see it with more clarity than I had even once it was finished.
Yeah. I mean, some authors just talking on that, like some authors will pick a theme and just keep revisiting a theme and keep reworking and exploring a concept to the nth degree, because there's so much that they can continue to say about it. That's just a statement, really, but that made me think of that. Like, yeah.
Do you think that's true for you? Like, do you feel like you've got? I mean, I've heard that said before. You know, we've all got kind of one. I mean, it's so prescriptive that it's probably useless. But it feels true for me. It feels like I feel like I'm always trying to tell the one story.
Oh, right.
You know?
So you do feel like that there's something that you're still trying to say in a different or new way.
I feel like that. I mean, I think in a way it's kind of this. It's this very public kind of, or it's putting that work that I guess we all do before we, you know, reach our deathbed, or a lot of people do it on their deathbed, is we try and understand that one story of our lives and those experiences. I feel like artists in a way do it. We're just the sort of people that is just showing everyone the dirty laundry. Most people have the kind of dignity to do that stuff behind closed doors, and we want people to read it while we're in process, in the process of doing it.
Look how filthy my laundry is.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I don't know. Do you feel like that? Do you feel like you're sort of covering the same ground in a kind of a
possibly
some weird loyal way?
Yeah,
of
I
returning to the same
still
place?
haven't worked out what it is, and I think that's actually why I still keep writing, because it's like, what is that thing? Yeah.
You have got something at the moment that you brought along with you that you've been working on, and it's in a. Do you want to tell us about what you brought along with you?
Yeah, sure. So we just got this. Actually, before I go on to that, could I just talk about
please,
what
yes.
Barbara brought up, which was
that word.
ekphrasis.
Ekphrasis.
Okay, so that response of
Nice
an
one.
artist,
Thank you.
or an artistic response to
To
a
other
piece of art.
Yeah, to other art. A creative response to art, and any form of art. Yeah.
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 Mm. Oh yeah. So ekphrasis. Ekphrasis.
Yeah.
I could have used that
Yeah.
last week in the article I wrote for the paper, because it's basically what I was talking about, but I didn't know that word.
I would just think
Nice.
that this whole book is sort of part of that, isn't it? Is that response to it. And it brings me back to when Georgia was editing my story, she said, "This is very Carver-esque." And I'm like, nailed it. Because, like, okay, so we've got Raymond Carver, right, whose stories are kind of traditionally nasty, brutish and short. Yeah, and he's a sort of master of tying off a story, you know, leaving you kind of walking away going, whoa, you know, what just happened there, and letting you finish it, you know. But also he wrote So Much Water, So Close to Home, in what we talk about when we talk about love, right? That was, the response to that was Everything Turns to White by Paul Kelly. Yeah? About the woman who is murdered, and these men go fishing and they tie her in the river because they don't want to go home. And it's from the narrative, it's from the narrator is his wife. And a lot of Carver's, he's a very macho, muscular kind of writer, but a lot of his narrators are women, and he has a really interesting take on women. Anyway, so it's from his wife. Anyway, so Paul Kelly writes this song, Everything Turns to White, which again is in the perspective of the wife. And then you get the movie Jindabyne, which is a direct response to Raymond Carver's story. So you've got this kind of circular thing. And then this book comes out, which is like...
And all these different mediums, different formats.
It's this beautiful kind of circular kind of response to different genres and form and media in art. Yeah, so I just wanted to bring that up because it's
a beautiful thing. It's a really exciting thing, and that's why we're here. Exactly. Yeah. So any thoughts on that?
No, I think that is a really cool thing, and I also think, so I also try and songwriting's a thing I try and do as well, and it's a
you did all right
difficult,
with that though.
But it's like another thing that's it can be so difficult to do.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at all these songwriters I loved, like David Byrne and these different characters, and I'm trying to remember the one who said it, but his whole thing was allow yourself to like find a song that you think is kind of perfect, that kind of nails the kind of emotional effect that you want to nail, and just rewrite, do it again. Just do it, like borrow a lot of the structure, whatever. Just have another crack at it. And I think, and as a way, I think of getting past writer's block and things. But I think that's a really, in a way, I mean, and I imagine there's a lot of readers or writers. There's a lot of readers here, writers here.
Yeah.
But I think that's instructive for if you're stuck. There's so many ways of entering a story or entering a piece of work, and one might just be I'm going to allow myself to bounce off this. I'm feeling a lot from this. I'm going to take it and run with it. So yeah,
it's a great process. Yeah. Anyway, so what we're up to now?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah?
Baby brain, I get to a certain point. I've got so many hours in me being pregnant, and so you might have to lead this conversation, Sarah.
Sure. So, do you have anything in the future? Anything coming up for you?
Just the same. There's this novel that I've been working on since like 2017 that I'd like to think I'm getting close to. And it's the same. It's me. I don't know what it is. I mean, the character Rob in this book is a sort of shark phobic. Has always been terrified of them. I've been surfing. I was kind of bullied into surfing when I was about 9 by my brother, and I've been doing it ever since, and love doing it. But I've always been genuinely, I'm sure, diagnosable as shark phobic, and I'm always something I'm thinking about. And always wondering why I'm thinking about what the obsession and the fascination is.
I don't know why I find that so funny, but I really
You're
do.
in Western Australia.
I know, yeah. That's another whole story. But I have always been interested in our cultural, this thing we've got, particularly men. I've seen it kind of all my lives, this sort of the the particular fear that men have. I mean, Donald Trump is one of his most. The only thing he seems to fear, he even said it once, was sharks. You know.
And germs.
Yeah,
Germs.
he was watching. Yeah. She was watching Shark Week, germs and sharks. Yeah, Sharks Week. He hates sharks. And it's something, and I see with surfers, it's this thing where, you know, the desire to want to kind of kill them and snuff them out, because it's this use, you know, when probably surfers in this room know what it's like around, even like local breaks around here. Mind you, Albany surfers are friendlier than Denmark surfers, but you go over to Denmark, there's a kind of the blokes feel like they own the spot, you know, and I own this, and I've been surfing here for 10 years, and then, you know, then there's this thing, you know, that comes, and that's the symbolic thing of this thing that's greater that comes out of the darkness. It's the classic kind of, it's a sort of it's Moby Dick, you know, and it comes out of the. Yeah, right. Well, you're probably safer because you're not stupid, sort of bobbing around like a dickhead on the surface.
Yeah.
But there's this thing where we're so challenged by it culturally, because we always thought we had dominion over the earth, you know.
Yep.
It's the
It's
Christian.
such a part of Australian identity.
Well, it is.
as
It's
well,
a white
isn't it,
Christian
to be-
thing.
to be-
My
yeah.
ancestors came with when they came to the southwest, that they were going to civilise, you know, wild nature, and
Yes.
we'll have dominion
Well,
over it.
domesticate the ocean.
And then boom, there's this thing that we don't have any dominion over it, and I have always been drawn to that, and I was particularly drawn to that period about 10 years ago now, when we went through this whole debate about culling sharks in WA, and that debate. I remember Colin Barnett on the front page of the paper with his hook, and so basically I'm writing. That's the kind of novel is in that. It's one of the main characters. He has the contract that the shark, you know, the fishing contract
to cull,
in
to
Gracetown.
cull them.
Yeah, and it's sort of his childhood, 30 years up to that point. Anyway, so I'm covering the same old ground, same old crap, you know, sharks and all that crap, and trying to work out what the hell I'm trying to say about it. But hopefully I'll work that out, and I'll have a book soon.
Yeah.
You got to write it to work it out, don't you? You can't work it out before you write it.
You do, yeah.
Yeah. Have you read Val Plumwood's Being Prey?
Exactly, but yeah.
Yeah.
Val. So Val, anyone familiar with the biologist Val Plumwood?
It's just like that's what he's saying, isn't it?
Was it in the late 80s? Was it 88 maybe? She was rowing a kayak in the East Alligator River in the Northern Territory. And as a scientist doing this alone though, in kind of in the middle of the monsoon, it was raining, and she came around a bend with the river kind of behind her, and she could see a saltwater crocodile kind of down the way, and obviously with the river behind her, there was no way she was stopping, so she kind of had to go past it, and then it attacked her, and then she spent hours with this thing on the riverbank, in its grip. And it was trying to death roll her, and it would tire out, and she'd be holding on to the mangroves.
Wow.
Anyway, long story short, she survives this encounter, and it went on to change sort of her life as a scientist and I guess a thinker, and as a philosopher of our human relationship to nature. And one thing she saw in that, she thought in that moment, and it kind of dawned on her more and more. She even said it in the hospital bed interview, I think with maybe the ABC, the next day from Darwin. That we see nature, we eat nature all the time, obviously. We quite happily, you know, we kind of draw from nature for our own sustenance and pleasure and whatever. But when we die, we lock ourselves in these boxes often, you know. In the past we used to do it with lead, so the worms couldn't even get to us, you know. We don't want to accept that we're part of that same system, that other things will feed on us and that we're prey. So she wrote this really beautiful essay that I really encourage you to read, Being Prey, if you haven't. And it's stunning.
It's amazing. It's one of the most amazing essays I think I've ever read in my life.
Being Prey by Val
Plumwood.
Val Plumwood. The late Val Plumwood. She died about 10 years ago, I think.
And what are you working on?
I'm getting more and more obsessed with islands. I interviewed Renee Pettit-Ship. I interviewed Renee, but I've also obviously been researching for a long time before then about islands and the Southern Ocean and that kind of thing. But I interviewed Renee about her book, The Archipelago of Us.
Yes.
Which is about Christmas Island and Cocos Keeling Islands, and just thinking about the psychogeography of islands. The thing that I'm working on at the moment is about the dogs that were left on Breaksea Island after the sealers were kicked out. So there's in the 1800s. Breaksea Island was kind of run by dogs, which is just this kind of marvellous mythic imagery for me to work with. But also islands in general, and the psychology of it.
Imagine coming upon that island.
I know. Yeah.
Amazing, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. So I'm busy at the moment trying to find out what they ate and that kind of thing. But my last piece out is in Great Ocean.
Here, let me hold it for you.
Thank you. Great Ocean, which is it's called a quarterly, but it comes out about once every 3 years or something like that. And Jock Sarong is the editor. So Jock Sarong also edited Minds Went Walking as well. And so I think after I caught up with him in Margaret River, which is what happens, isn't it? Is when writers get together, they go, hey, oh, that's right, you do that. Would you like to do this? And
put in a good word, because we'd love to interview Jock Sarong.
Oh, he's awesome. Yeah, he's written quite a few novels as well.
How fun this was.
I will do, yeah. So this one is Moments of Reckoning, Breaksea Island, Western Australia. So this particular edition is about the Great Southern Reef, which goes from Kalbarri around to New South Wales. It's this, and they put Christopher Pease's art in my story. So I'm just like, wow, yeah. So I'm very pleased about that. Yeah, he's amazing.
Lovely.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I'm up to.
Yeah. So, and you got all your marking done, I heard, which is good.
Oh, you overheard me. Got my marking done.
Yeah. So do you guys have time off over the Christmas period from being creative, and you'll just get back into it next year, or is it something that never really turns off?
Yeah, look, to be honest, I think, both my partner Fiona and I are working out how... you feel stupid saying this because so many people have children. It's like all of us, billions of people have children every day. It's kind of... But you feel like it's the bloody big puzzle to work out how to do other things and do life. And I think we're both working out how to do that. Our professional selves, how to kind of hold on to that.
Plus Charlie.
Plus Charlie. And it's awful whenever you talk in that context. It's like, well, he becomes this big obstacle when it's like I think he feeds us and in a kind of incredible spiritual
You'll
way.
hear about this when he's like 21. And
So anyway, so I think we're sort of working out that balance. And I've been trying to make a little bit of a space to work as well, and I think that's and increasingly, bloody hell, again at the moment in the kind of the housing crisis and many people just don't have a place to sleep. So ridiculous thing really to talk about. But it is a thing. I think artists also do need somewhere to work. So whether that's you've got a spot in a library or whatever, finding. I think it is important to have a spot where you can go. So I feel like I'm in that phase at the moment. I've sort of been kind of nesting in a way for the work. And I hope summer is productive.
What about you, Sarah?
I like that idea of a place to go to work. So Jan would know about that. We used to have a room at the uni where we could work on our PhDs, and it was literally going to work. As opposed to going to a place in the corner of your house and sort of doing the dishes and
getting
and like just getting
everything,
totally distracted. It was that real physical.
Finish that mosaic that you started.
Yeah, absolutely physical going to work. My summers are always really busy because I'm doing the fire season.
The fire season,
so it's
you're
just
a
flat
watcher.
out.
You're a fire
Fire watch, and in the office and all that kind of stuff. And as we were saying to Chelsea earlier on, it started early this year, and it's not a terribly creative time for me. Summer, it's like just whoa.
No, we love your work. We appreciate what you do in summer. Does anyone have any final questions before we wrap it up?
Aren't they great? A little lolly shop. Thanks,
Thank you.
Venetia.
Yeah. Well, thank you both for being here tonight. This has been fabulous. I booked you guys quite earlier in the year, and I just knew that we wanted to end with this book, and I knew this would be a lot of fun. So thank you for coming, and yeah.
Thank you so much, Billy,
Oh,
for
pleasure.
all of the work that you do. Isn't she amazing?
Thank you.
Like, woo!
Thank you. It's a team effort. Paperbark is very much a team effort. We're a good crew, aren't we? So, and
Yeah,
actually,
thanks, guys.
this is our lovely Lisa. Everyone would have seen her. Yeah, Lisa did the conversation last month. Thank goodness, because I couldn't turn up, and I just called you like a couple of days before, like, Lisa, could hardly even talk. Please do the interview. And you did a fantastic job. And Lisa's actually going to take over and do about 3 months of the book club next year when I'm busy with a baby. So that's awesome. So thank you for doing that. Yes. Yeah. So Sam and Sarah are going to hang around to sign any books if anybody would like a book signed or further chat. Otherwise, that wraps us up for a year, and we come back in February. We'll have Rachel Johns on the couch with us. Her book doesn't come out until January, so you have to watch that space. But yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for coming.